Hello and welcome to Divi Coaching. I don't know if, like me, you sometimes find it quite difficult to know where you are when you're building a website. You're not quite sure where a module starts or ends, or where a row starts or ends. And I have a tip for you today using a very small amount of CSS, which will help you to see visually and very clearly on your site as you build it where everything is. And what we're going to be using is the CSS Outline property. So just to explain a little bit about that, probably the easiest way is to show you. So I'm going to come into a new page in Divi. I'm going to insert a single row and I'm going to insert a text module. I'm going to save that. And then we're going to add a little bit of CSS in the customizer to show how Outline works. So we're going to exit the Visual Builder, come into the customizer, into additional CSS. So what Outline does, not surprisingly, is put an outline around whatever element you are targeting. The cool thing about Outline is that it doesn't affect your layout at all. So it will just go over whatever else is on the screen at the time. So it will not change the size of your elements, which is really important for the flow when you're building a site. So it just is a visual indicator, an outline around the element that shows you where that element is, which I find really useful during building. So let's have a look at an example. So let's target this row. So to target a row in Divi, it's et_pb_row, and then a pair of curly braces. And so then we use our outline keyword. And you can see here that there's various different things: outline color, outline offset, outline style, and outline width. As with a lot of CSS, there are shortcuts for this. So it's very straightforward. So say we want a red outline, we can just type red. We want that outline to be solid, we can type solid. And we want that outline to be 1 pixel, we can type 1px. So you can see that round each row on my website, because this is a very non-specific selector, on every row on my website, there will now be a red solid 1 pixel outline. Now, there are various options for this. I mean, I'll put a link in the description where you can look up the various options. But for example, we could have dashed in here. We could have dotted. Different types of outline. We could change the thickness. So if we wanted a really thick one, we could go with 5 pixels. So lots of different options. And of course, it doesn't have to be red. It can be any color you want, whether it's from the standard named colors or whether it is from an RGB color. So you can choose whatever color you want for your outline. So that's the principle of it. I find it really useful. Let's see how that works with a page with a little bit more content on it. I've created a single page here, which I've assigned as the front page, and I've called it home page. I'm going to go into Edit with Divi. And then once the builder opens up, I'm going to go to Build from Scratch. I'm going to insert a 2-column row. And into the first column, I'm going to insert a text module. Into that text module, I'm going to paste some text. And then in the design settings, I'm going to go to text. And I want to make this a little bit larger so we can see what we're doing. So I'm going to increase the size of this text to 20 pixels. And then to give it a little bit of space, I'm going to come down to line height and I'm going to put in 1.5 ems of line spacing. Okay, so what I'm now going to do is also copy that to the second column. And the quick way to do that is to go into the row settings, simply delete the second column and then click on this little duplicate symbol to duplicate it. I want this column to look a little bit different, so I'm going to add a single space in here just to change the height. Now, the main idea of this tutorial is to help you keep track of where you're working. I find it really difficult sometimes, and you think, oh, did I put some margin in there, or did I put some padding in? And that's where using the outline bit of CSS is really useful. So if we close the builder now and come out of the Visual Builder, I'm going to go into the customizer. And now that we're in the customizer, we can start to add in our little bit of CSS. The first thing I want to do is put an outline around the row, and sticking with the sort of Divi convention on colors, I'm going to put a green outline around the row. And that's really simple. We go .et_pb_row. which is the Divi selector for a row, or for all rows rather. Then a pair of curly braces, and then inside the curly braces we can say outline, colon, and we'd like that outline to be 1 pixel wide. We'd like it to be green, and we'd like it to be solid. And there we are. Immediately we can see that we have a green outline. Of course it goes around the ones in the heading as well. It's not, because we're using a selector that's very indiscriminate, if you like, it's selecting all of the rows throughout our website, and it's putting a green single pixel line around it. If we wanted a heavier line, we can easily do that. We could make it a 2 pixel line, for example, and you can see it immediately makes that line heavier. So already, if I publish this, you can see that I've now got a clue as to where my row is. If I'd also like to see, for example, where the column is, I can just extend this principle. So I can do .et_pb_column. And in this case, let's go with a red outline. So again, we go outline, and we go 1 pixel, red, and solid. And here we are. You can see that we have a solid red line around our column. Now in this case, the column is actually the same size as the module. So if I did put a third one in around the module, it wouldn't really help it. Well, in fact, let's do it and I'll show you what would happen. So if we say want to select the text module, we can also do .et_pb_text, which selects text modules. And I can again go outline. This time let's go with 1 pixel, and let's say orange. Whoops, orange and solid. And you can see that immediately what's actually happened is it's put the orange line over the red line. So you can't actually really see that the orange line is there. And that's because, as I say, the column outline and the text outline are the same size. Now, where this starts to get useful, if we publish this and we come back into the builder for a second, is if, say, for example, we'd chosen to make these column heights equal. So we'd gone into the settings for the column, design, sizing, and a setting that you use really quite often to make the column heights equal. We click on yes. We can then see immediately that now our red line, let's just save and come out of the builder to make this a bit clearer. So I'm going to save. I'm going to exit the visual builder. I'm going to come back into my customizer so we can have a look at the CSS again. And we can now see that my row outline is solid green as before. My column outline is red. And you can see now that I've extended the size of this column. So the column is actually deeper than the text module, and the text module is orange. Now, this is a fairly simple example. Where it starts to get really useful is when you start having different spacing involved. So if we go back into the Visual Builder, and for example, I decide to add some margin to the top of this text setting. So if I go into spacing and say I add a 20 pixel margin to the top. Now you can see that there is a difference, and we actually have a margin at the top of the text, and there is a clear gap between the outline around the column and the outline around the text. Whereas if I took a different approach in this module, for example, and I decided to add, instead of margin, I add a 20 pixel padding to the top of this, we can see that even though the text looks like it's in the same place, now the text module still fills the full column, but you can clearly see that what we've got is 20 pixels of padding at the top of this column, whereas we've got 20 pixels of margin at the top of this column. So it's just a really simple tip, something that you can just find out where you are, what you're doing. I find it really useful if you come into a page that you maybe built a long time ago and you want to see what you actually did. You can just very quickly pop into the customizer, put some values in here, and start to see what's going on. Now, if you just wanted to target one single particular element, you don't have to put your CSS in here. So you can come to back into the front end of the builder, and say you just wanted your outline on this particular row. You can come into the Advanced tab, Custom CSS, and you can put it in here. So you can say outline, red, 2 pixels, and let's go with dotted for a change. So now we've put a dotted red line all the way around this column. I hope you found this useful. This has been a very short tutorial today. There are some more on my channel, so please do have a look at the other titles on there. I've not made any for a while now, but I now have some time and I'm going to be coming in and hoping to make really quite a few tutorials over the next few months, including some more detailed, more in-depth ones, and a lot more focusing on CSS and how it can usefully be used within the Divi infrastructure, if you like. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.